Hello and welcome back to Drawing Blood, our weekly series where we take a look of what goes into our game #Blood in terms of animation. I'm your host Chris Burns. With me as always is Bob Fox to my right, and we also got people abroad. Our two programmers, that's Andrew Tavis and Cody Greenhalgh, and our writer Greg Lane. So if you have any questions regarding that with our game, those kind of things with our game, please reach out to them. They should be in the chat. Hey, Shocktooth, how you doing? We're broadcasting on YouTube and Twitch, which I don't know, something might change with Twitch next week, so we'll keep everyone posted about that. So I'm gonna do a little brief overview of what we've been kind of working on the last couple weeks here. As you can see on my screen, we got this dirt vampire that we called. He'll be named something cooler than that, and we'll leave that up to Greg. But that's sort of how I establish what I'm working on in my flash files here. So last week, click on this, we went through the animation to get him actually out of the ground. You can see here, if you look to the upper left here, he kind of starts as this little dirt pile that goes around the world, kind of like Bugs Bunny with, you know, those dirt piles in those old Looney Tunes cartoons. And in order to get him out, well, there's one way he comes out and attacks you if you're too close, and another way is to actually use Becky's shovel here, which you can see her kind of anticing up here on the bottom of the screen there, and actually dig him out to make him vulnerable and hurt him. So I'm going to show you that animation. See there on the bottom. And what we did was follow the same chart that Becky uses to dig and kind of go in conjunction with him right here. Is it too loud? Okay, it's a little loud, but it's telling me so. So click on volume. 60? 59. 58. Okay. Let us know if that's too loud or too quiet. Okay, so he pops out of the dirt here, and then he falls right into his prone position, or the vulnerable position, where Becky will now be able to hit him and dispatch of him as she does all the enemies in our game. We went through that last week. The week before we did the attack here. Pop it out and grab like that. So this week, last week we also had him jumping into the dirt, and I still haven't fully animated this one right here, where this is the prone position where we, you know, in terms of timing and stuff, the programmers sort of take this and adjust it on the fly to see how long he should be prone. We don't want to keep him there indefinitely because that kind of takes away the challenge, but you know, we'll time it out to feel what's right, and that kind of goes with what's happening in the game, how deep this guy is into the game. If we want to make it more of a challenge, he can pop in and pop out pretty quickly. And if we want to give the players a break, we can extend that thusly. So we got that. So this is what we'll be working on today, which is when Becky swings her field hockey stick and deals out some damage for this dude. You can see right now the symbols look really wonky, and I'll show you that in a second. But I want to kind of go through what it takes to do some of these damage moves for these characters, because everything in our game is hand drawn and we're trying to do it so it looks like it's all on the same chart and stuff. We take that kind of timing a little serious here. So I'm going to open up another file of a character getting hit with Becky in there to show you what goes into it, so it kind of looks like it's all on the same chart and all on the same piece of paper if it were. So I'm going to open up a file that we did a very, very long time ago that sort of paved the way for this this theory on how we deal out damage. So I'm going to put the hatchling here. Hatchling master. Okay. This file's I hope Flash doesn't crash. So this file's huge. You can see right now we got into the almost 2,000 frames of it total. I'm going to turn off the background here because it's just sort of extraneous and it's going to slow it down. So I'm going to play this through for a little bit. This is a hatchling, sort of like kind of an easier villain in this. It's when you're first sort of introduced to the vampire apocalypse here, so we kind of got this kind of every vampire kind of person where you can just kind of wail on them. But anyone who knows anything about this game, it's a top-down adventure, so we had to play with every angle. So this is one of our more robust kind of sprite sheets here. So you can see all the animation that sort of just goes into the movement here. We got him turning around, him getting surprised, run. They have a walk and a run. That's sort of the recoil, which we'll get into with the other, the dirt vampire. This is him giving damage. And this is what I was kind of talking about. You can see we're kind of timing out Becky's swing to the hatchling getting hit. And we have a few ways he takes damage. So they all kind of go in concert with the direction of how she's swinging. So she's coming kind of overhead on this one. And he propels right. Because this is the second swing, so we're kind of following through with the other one. She kind of comes across his face and slaps him sideways there. This one's sort of more of a backwards hand motion, so we trip the hatchling here. That's the uppercut move, so his jaw goes up. And then there's the death, which any hit could kind of trigger that. We try to make the death so big. And so no matter what move you hit, he'll die. And when you do it that big, that means the uppercut will work, the trip will work, any of them will work. And that's sort of the idea of these kind of big, grandiose deaths. So you'll see every death on these angles work the same way. I'm just going to let this play while I talk. You can see here, this is the three-quarter down. And it all has the same sort of things, the same hits. Same death for each thing. You can see Becky taking damage. This is him facing from the front. Get that. Alright, so this is three-quarter down. And not every enemy has this much animation. This is probably our most animation per character, because they have walks and runs. And lastly, the back shot here. All right. So, back to these kind of wonky. That's that. So, closing that down. So, these wonky frames, you see how they're kind of doubled up here? You see a drawing behind it. So, I'm going to go inside one of them and show you what I'm kind of setting this up as. So each one of those hits, I kind of want to establish which direction she's swinging in and stuff. So I do these kind of bigger, broader drawings here. And this guy is, you know what, depending on the villain, like, we have kind of more serious villains where they kind of look a little more scary and stuff. This guy is a little bit goofy on the goofy side, so I'll do like a cartoonier pose for these ones. And then there's really outrageous characters that we do that we go full cartoon, like Logic with them. So like if you get electrocuted or something, you'll see their bones inside of that. And this guy's sort of in the middle, so I kind of did these like funnier poses for him. So I'll start with this drawing, knowing that if she swings, it's sort of, that's the right hit. Like if she hits him from the side, he'll get propelled to the right here. So I kind of want to start with that pose, right? Now, the chart on top, layer 16 here, this is the same exact chart as her swing. This would be the first frame of the actual making contact with this character. And then it settles all the way to 17. Now, if you ever seen I always use this example, but like an arrow that gets shot into the wall. And if you see it at slow motion, it hits the wall and then it sort of bends back and forth like, and when you see it in real time, it looks super juddery and stuttery. And that's sort of the same principle we're doing with this guy here. So he gets hit to the right. I'll do a more extreme version of even this extreme. And then on an opposite layer, all the appendages will be doing something different in that, and they all settle to the last frame. So these are the last, these are the same drawings as the first frame here, if that makes sense. I don't know if I worded that right. But basically, we're going to do this giant settle, then stagger. So I'll settle this as an one layer of animation, settle the other one, expand it, spread it out, and then it'll hit this on frame 17. Now, after it hits frame 17, this will be the last frame after I stagger and move it to the timing. I do this, what we call the recoil, which is him sort of jumping back in to the dirt, which will eventually reset to this pose right here, which is the idle of that guy. So everything sort of returns to idle or battle stance or a damaged pose. And then I'll kind of use that recoil in almost every one of those damage animations, because they're, again, those are kind of so broad that it works. And even though this is the down one where he gets smashed down, he'll lift up and go back into the dirt. Same exact frames, so we don't have to worry about that. Same exact frames here as well, which is also the same exact frames as this right here. I just kind of took it from this frame and went down. So there is some reuse we try to do just to save some amount of time. All right, now that lesson's sort of over, I'm going to just jump in and start in-betweening this guy. All right, and Bob, you just let me know if there's any questions. Do we?
Montana was here.
Oh, okay. Hey, Tony Montana. Hey, how you doing, guys? Good to see you, and thanks for joining us. It's always nice to see the same people week in and week out. It's nice to see I'm not boring you too hard. All right, so I'm gonna just turn off all the layers except the ones I'm in-betweening to kind of keep focus here. Everything's on one layer with this, with these kind of cartoonier things. I wouldn't go ahead and I wouldn't bother go ahead and separate the body and the head and all that. It would just take a lot of time, and some of these are so kind of close in proportions that you could really kind of do some loose roughs and then just go right ahead and in-betweening. For instance, this one, I would probably kind of, the head is a little wonky here, so I'm gonna go ahead and in between this before I clean that up. So we're always anyone who's been watching me for a little bit knows I usually start with the eye area here, sort of where I really believe that that's where most of the audience pays attention to. In most cartoons, I feel like eye acting is super important. And that's that theory there. So I'm just going to go ahead, loosely rough this guy out. Got the hair, well, what I call the hair. That's the dirt that I've been using as secondary. I missed, I could see in the extreme here, I missed one of these. This little detail in the dirt that I'm just going to add right now. See that mark right there? This one right here that I'm pointing to? Forgot that in this one. I don't think it would matter in context, but it'll be easier in between if I get it in there now. Okay. Switch back to red. I always kind of clean, rough out in red or blue too. I find when I do it in like a similar color to the outline, it gets a little hard to decipher what's right, what's wrong. And when you onion skin with these Flash or any kind of files like this, it does get pretty confusing pretty quick. Oh, Ace Bodacious, you're back. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, we've been back for about 5 weeks now. We're gonna try to do this, kind of this weekly thing again. We were so busy with the, when we stopped 2 or 3 years ago on other projects and stuff, but now we're full-time #blood. And that feels good to say. All right. Another confusing thing with this guy is his sort of garb that he's wearing here. So I just want to loosely rough those out too, just to get a sense of that, because when you get all these kind of these triangles or the square right here, it can get pretty confusing. So, I mean, you should always rough out stuff, to be honest, but there's times that I'm so familiar with these characters that I kind of forego it. And sometimes it bites me, and other times it works. But all these settles that we kind of do, I'll forego most of the roughs. But if there's a big in-between, there's just no chance. You would just spend your whole time trying to clean it up from afar. That wouldn't work anyway. Alright. So I got that. And just sort of spot check this here. That dot goes up here. Those two little dots down there. Oh, there. Alright. So I'm going to clean this guy up now. And then we could probably settle the rest without roughing out. I always go to brush 400. I go to zoom in 400. You can see and where my mouse is right here. That's a percentage of what you'll see on the screen. And I always go to brush 8. And this is Flash MX for all you guys still using that. Brush sizes change per program. Alright. His head's probably the more complicated part of this. In general. Since he's this kind of, he like burrows in the dirt, I made this kind of helmet out of dirt, which changes in every frame. Why is the game named Blood? LOL. When we first started this is a bit of a long story. It started as a pitch for a television series or a short or just sort of an IP. And at the time, I mean, it's still relevant today, I suppose. We wanted to make the name something a teenager would sort of say at the time, and like. In the vernacular, people were saying hashtag this and hashtag that a lot, and we're kind of being a little bit on the nose with that when we kind of came up with the game. Hashtag blood, and blood spelled that way. We didn't want to spell it the normal way, so we kind of stand out in terms of in terms of the like how a teenager would sort of shorthand it a little bit. So we did it with like sort of how a teenager would kind of call what would she call the game, and from there we kind of just ran with it. It also helps on our Twitter now because it's part of the title and it always kind of highlights it that way, so that it benefited us a little bit there too. And it's about vampires, so blood made we had to do something that kind of announce the fact that we were talking about vampires in this. That was 5 or 6 years ago. Like 7 years ago? We were working on another project of ours at the time and had a little bit of a lull in production, so we kind of put together like this 45-second clip of what the show could look like or what the show should feel like. We could probably send a YouTube link. 6 years we've made that. Bob might throw the YouTube link in the chat here, and you can kind of see where it started and what it's morphed quite a bit since then. At the time, we were super into like doing like these actiony sort of shorts, action related, and that stems from even longer ago when we were doing a short called Coin, which that was 12 or 13 years ago. 9 for Coin? No,
that might be
the new Coin. I was talking about the original Coin.
This is original Coin.
9? That's it? Okay. Well, I thought we did that. Yeah. We've been a studio for 12 years, and didn't we do that first?
I feel maybe this is a newer version.
Maybe. A long time ago. It was definitely over a decade, though. Yeah, now everyone. No, we beat them to market, I guess. Joe Mama. Animating is hard. You're right, but I like doing it. So I don't know what else I would do if I didn't animate either. So I kind of have to make it work. Probably get more sleep though. All right, as I was saying, I didn't really I don't think I'm gonna need to rough this one out. You can see, especially with the percentage I'm at, how close the lines are. And even furthermore, when you see what I do at the end, when I kind of recolor some of these frames to make it look more impactful, I like select the black line and make it a different color, and so they kind of flash. And for every enemy, I've been doing that. Forgot the dots here. For every enemy, I do that to just sort of indicate to the player that you are dealing out damage to these characters. Um, there's a lot going on in our game, and if we didn't have those kind of like splashy kind of flashes and all that stuff, I worry the player might not know that you're actually hurting the villains here. So we kind of do that as an indicator. It's it's one of the only things we do in this game that I kind of look at like we're doing it not to make it look like a cartoon, but to almost make it look like a video game. Because you don't see that a lot in regular cartoons. And that's sort of the goal of our game, is to make it feel and play as if you were watching a Saturday morning cartoon. Alright, the hands here are a little far apart, so I might eat my words here now that I'm cleaning this up on the fly. Let's try it. Ooh, I keep forgetting stuff here. I need the toe line. When a character has... not that this has tons of detail, but all this line work, I'll always miss something. I never try to freeze frame on the in-betweens, let's put it that way. When I was working at other studios, and like an animation director would like come by our desk and see what we were working on, and whenever it was on a in between, I always felt super self-conscious. Like, no, don't worry, it's not gonna look like that. This is me just trying to rush to get it finished. As a rule of thumb, I sort of just kind of tie down. I'll do the most roughs for the initial pose, like a lot of different drawings until I get that clean. Then I'll tie in the layout, which are like the extreme poses. That'll take less roughs, but still, 2 or 3. And then in betweens, I'll just take one rough pass at, if any. All right. Got the hands here, and finally the last foot. These characters are significantly bigger than Becky. Becky has the most drawings of any thing in the game so far, for good reason. That's the one that's interactive. But I made her significantly smaller, so actually getting to animate her is a lot quicker. Plus, I was so familiar with her design by the time it got to like finishing her sprite workup, which we still have a little bit to do with her, but the majority of her work is done. And we got sort of a sprite file I could show you later about what goes into just her movement. And it's about as long as that hatchling file I showed, 1,300 drawings or so. Or 1,300 frames, but each frame has 5 drawings on it, or 6. Alright, I keep forgetting this dot. What is that? Oh, that's something behind him. You see here, I got, like, you can see where I'm circling. That's behind the symbol. So I don't know where that is. If I break this, it should disappear. There we go. Yeah, Flash MX, you can see through all the stuff when you put it on onion skin. So if you like make a mistake, and which I did there, I drew on the wrong layer, that'll pop up, and it'll always look a little bit different, so you'll know it's not on the same frame. Got the ears here. Not gonna forget those dots. Mouth. Whoops. Right here. Now the second hardest part, the clothes again, then the limbs, and we're done. You ever try to time yourself, Bob, like how fast you do a drawing?
No. I'm not very fast at it.
Yeah. I used to do that at the other studio. Which, you know, we had a benchmark of what we were trying to have in terms of sprite work. And it was completely arbitrary. We just came up with a random number that seemed high. And it was 50,000 or something to that degree. And so I set out every day with a number in mind of drawings I had to hit to do that in terms of schedule. And, you know, we almost doubled or tripled it now. So we're coasting closer to 150,000 drawings right now than the 50,000 benchmark, which I thought would be enough to finish a game, but apparently it's not. I don't know how many. It better not be over 200,000, I'll tell you that much. We don't have the time. All right. And the last arm. What's nice about settles too is every drawing gets a little easier. There's less rough work to do because the lines get a little bit closer. Unless you're doing the opposite of a settle, which would be a lead-in. And then it's the opposite. You would start closest to the extreme frame, the other extreme, and go that, which would change the timing significantly. That's like if you wanted to, like where this is a settle, it starts big and small. Like if you, actually I can show you. We have a bomb animation in this, which does the opposite because the bomb is stationary and you want it to kind of shake before it explodes. So let me go to that. I can show you what I mean there. I'm gonna go to Becky again, and I believe that's in the throw library. Bomb toss. Yeah. Ooh, this is playing so slow. Let me see if there's a background thing I could turn off. Yeah. Okay. So like everything with Becky and her tools and her things she uses here, we have to do every angle. And it's a little more deceiving. It looks like a little more than it should. But we really only have to worry about like, if this was a clock from 12 to 6 here. The other 3 on the other side are just duplicates. We made every kind of thing she did symmetrical. So, but that's not what I was talking about. You see the bomb here. There's so many layers in this. Okay. So the bomb lands, right? And this is sort of the last frame of the bomb before it kind of settles. And then it and I did the stagger here, but you can see it starts really small and then it gets big because it's about to do this giant explosion, right? And that would be the opposite of the settle here. And then we got the... So that, and essentially it's the same thing, but we're reversing the timing so it does the opposite effect. We got the smoke there. And you see we got like the emoticons here and these explosions, which we thought would be funny given the nature of the game. All right. So where was I? Right in the eye here. Okay. I think next week we'll put a fork in this guy. I'm gonna finish this guy in the weeks to come, but we'll work on a different kind of lesson here with perhaps a different villain or maybe some Becky stuff. Like, you know, everything in this production has been more organic. Like whatever we need to work on sort of has to get done. So in terms of planning on what next week would bring, I'm not exactly clear on, but there's more villains to animate, and that need a lot more work than this guy who's so close to the finish line here. Head finished. Or did I get the ear? Nope, still got the... I keep calling that the hair, but that's the grass. Oh, I didn't even do the mouth. I was way off. And this is just one of the poses of the extreme, so we'll have to do the exact same thing on the layer below, plus the dirt under him. And I separated the dirt under him because I wasn't sure if I would change the line color for the dirt itself when he gets hit. You know, one could argue that that's part of his character and it should look like it gets hit, but I think in this case, since he's above it, it'll look better if that remains the same color as it always is, and then it would focus the player more on focusing on him getting hit, not so much the dirt as well. But if I wasn't going to do that, I would have kept everything on the same layer, because it would just save a little more time. All right, let's get this side. When you zoom in that much, I always miss stuff. That's one thing I really miss about kind of in-betweening on paper. Is you could kind of see the whole thing of it when you were even cleaning up. No real substitute for that other than it takes so long. I also haven't drawn animation on paper in 2 decades now. I bet I'm pretty bad at it. Yeah, could you imagine?
No.
Like, not having Control Z. When I was like deep in production for like early in my career, I had you know, I was still learning all the like shortcuts and stuff, so Control Z was, you know, somewhat new to me, but I'd use it so often because I wasn't as confident as I was like drawing this stuff. And it was just always sort of on my mind. I would always kind of say to myself, oh, I just had to hit Control Z. So I was not kind of thinking one day, and I tripped down the subway or something. Like, I completely made a fool of myself. And I just, like, I literally thought, I was like, I'm just going to Control Z that so no one's paying attention to me. Like, I thought I could do it in real life. And then, like, when I was taking notes and stuff, like, during meetings, and I'd, like, spell something wrong, which I do a lot, I thought I could Control Z that too because it was so ingrained and it was so new of a function at the time for me. It took literally 3 seconds while I was on the ground in the subway. Like, I was like, oh my, I had to get myself up. I'm looking so foolish.
Like drawing with the kids on paper. I've done that.
Yeah.
Whoa, I can't.
Yeah. When a kid asks me to draw on like paper and stuff, I get super nervous now because I do so much like redacting. Paint behind here. It's very like I had to talk to I didn't have to, I chose to talk to, I don't know what grade she was in, 4th grade or 3rd grade when I went to my friend's kids.
Oh, I think she's always great, so probably 4th.
4th grade. And I went there and it was like career day, and they wanted to talk to me about. There was a kid in there that was interested in art. Um, and I went in there and they asked me to draw on a pad. Like it was like nothing I draw either. Like, can you draw SpongeBob? So I was sitting there. I was like, oh my god, I had to do this in front of you guys. But luckily, a kid had a SpongeBob shirt on, so I he must have thought I was staring daggers at him. I just kept looking at it, just copying what I saw there. Uh, they they liked it though, but I was super nervous because I couldn't do that without reference.
I can't do anything.
No, we're kind of spoiled. The digital age has spoiled us. And they were also like they were like, "Oh, are you on YouTube?" So big for them. They were like, "Are you on YouTube?" And I was like, "Yeah, we got something." They asked how many subscribers we had, and I didn't know. I was like, you know, 9,000 or something. And they all kind of like snickered, like that was a low number. I was like, "That's a lot for me." Can't wait for the release. Yeah, we can't either. I mean, as much as we love working on this, it will be neat to see people actually playing it in like we only get to see people playing it outside of our group, and this was a while ago, a certain like game related conventions. So I'm kind of excited to see people um, what their experience is when this finally gets out. Glad to see you guys back streaming AC. Yeah, years ago. You're right. No, we're gonna be back for a while now. We're gonna try to do it weekly every Friday at 2. Um, and of course, you know, unless otherwise, we'll let you know if we're gonna change the day or any of that stuff. But it gives us an excuse to show you guys what goes into all these drawings or this game, which is a ton of drawings, I guess. Okay, so I'm going to do the dirt here real quick. And this, no sweat. You really don't need any roughs here. A lot simpler. Yeah, and then they were like, I admit I'm not like big, like I'm not sure what's happening in the world of YouTube at all. But they were like, do you know Mr. Beast? Like all that stuff. And I was just like, it was just funny.
I don't even know if my kids know who he
My son knows Mr. Beast, but I think allegedly
Oh yeah.
like 1 in every 10 people on Earth know him probably because he's that popular. It was just I was so nervous to draw on that pad though, and it was like a giant stationary pad. Like, so I wasn't like hunkered down, like where I could rough it out, and they just gave me a marker. I was like, oh my god, they're not gonna think I'm an artist at all. You see, these ones are a lot quicker. And in terms of like tangents and stuff, I try to avoid any of the lines crossing here. So you can see there's a little gap here, but I really don't like even if this in between was supposed to hit his chin here, I would try to avoid that. I don't like a ton of like tangents like that. It always sort of bothers me, so I'm gonna favor this side here just so I avoid that chin. Yeah, tangents are sort of a surefire way to get when you can tell that something was drawn like it was isolated from the original drawing, and it kind of reads like there's a lot of layers. And if I want one takeaway with this game, I want it to really feel like every frame of animation was on one piece of paper or one frame. Even though we're using a lot of layers here, I want to give it the impression that every frame was kind of thought of as one drawing. We went through it on certain streams, but like that's where the shimmer comes in or the line boil. You could really fake a little bit of that in these kind of newer programs or digital programs. This is not a new program at all. All right. with this done, we jump to the next hard one, which is the opposite settle. Let's color that. Like remember when we had to in front of our kids during we did it at the
Yes,
stream.
yeah. Well, that's
I was a little nervous with that too.
Well,
though.
you could do it better at Flash. Like I was thinking the other day, I was doing it with some kids too, and they're like, draw a giraffe, and it's like I don't know.
Yeah, I know the idea.
My
It's like
graph
what's in
wasn't
your
there.
head when you think of giraffe too? It's like
Or a peacock or something. I was like, I don't know what a peacock looks like.
my nephew, like he's super into like Spider-Man and stuff.
Oh, he is.
And-
That's like,
And I was like, oh, you don't know how hard comics are. Like the comics you're talking about. It's like, I just heard these simple, goofy characters. But I couldn't do it like if I see a picture of Spider-Man and it's next to me, I could kind of rough it out
Yes.
to some
But I
degree.
couldn't
But
do
like
that.
in my head, I'm like, I have no idea.
I
Like
couldn't draw anatomy like that from my head.
I was thinking about Spider-Man the other day, like animating
No,
that.
just-
I was
just
like,
that, the
just the
skill I grew
idea-
up on, like how many lines had to be drawn for the.
yeah, no, it's like in terms of design for animation, I was thinking he had to be one of the hardest to do that.
Yeah, no,
I didn't think it like it just every frame you're doing a web on the perspective of his torso, and then his arms have. I was thinking about that the other
I
day.
used to love that one from the '90s too. That was like a big.
Which one was that?
There was like an animated. It was kind of around a little later than Batman, but it was.
Was it
big.
by WB? though?
I think.
Really?
something Like, I don't know if it was WB or Fox. It was Fox. Kids.
Okay. Was it? Did it look as good as the original Batman? Or
Well,
To you?
no, but it, like, I was still amazed by it. Like,
Yeah.
how it could be done.
that Batman?
Not Batman.
That holds out, man. That looks really good still. That was big. Like when we're talking about the what year was that?
I
Was
feel
that
like it was right
96 or
Yeah,
something?
it was like right after the movie, right? It was '89, so it might have been even more earlier than.
That was in the 80s.
Was it right after? Well, '89 was the first movie. I don't know.
Okay.
It might
No,
have
no,
been
yeah.
Returns maybe.
But we're talking about the WB Batman, the cartoon. But I remember when I went to college, and this
92 it started.
this was 99 or 2000 when I went to college. Forget graduated 99. So yeah, 2000. Anyway, everyone in my class was super into like the design of that, and there was this book that just came out that showed the design work and the character turnarounds and like kind of the theory on that show. And you watch that show and like that and Gargoyles, like there was a lot of good stuff on like that.
That time period. And it was a little more
I'm
adult,
back
like
when-
an older kid.
I'm wishing for a PC so I can install Macromedia MX. Is this the 2004 MX? Curbs on. I'm back, or maybe CS 5.5. You know, CS3 is a decent.
CS5 was pretty decent.
That was good too.
It was CS4 that was so bad.
Oh, that was so bad that they had to issue an apology. I remember working on CS4 during a production, and we had to stop.
Go back
Yeah.
to CS3 or something. Yeah.
But yeah, CS3 and CS5, they're comparable. Like they hold up to what I like about Flash
And
MX.
it didn't crash anywhere near like how the new one goes.
Oh, the new one. I forget it.
CS3 I remember being really good about not crashing a lot.
Yeah, CS3 we used on a few projects too.
Yeah.
There was a time when we were like, we had to move on because MX is gonna be, irrelevant, or we won't be able to use it. And I'm waiting for that day. I'm so scared for that day. Yeah, CS5 works pretty well. CS3, in terms of like what we do with this program, it's really pretty bare bones. We make blank keyframes. We'll draw the blank keyframes and occasionally pan those keyframes as symbols. There's stuff we do with shape tweening and all like those kind of things, but you could strip down probably 90% of the tools on MX for us, and I don't think it would change our day-to-day operation too much. We really kind of look at it as just a tool or a drawing apparatus to just get a frame of animation done. Um, and I think what we kind of dislike about the newer versions of Adobe Animate or Flash is that they just added more stuff that we wouldn't use to it, and it ended up hindering what we like about it, which is the drawing application to it. Um, but I mean, they had 20 years of since this program's been out, and I'm sure there's stuff in there that, given certain productions, that we couldn't do on this. So, us bad mouthing Animate, you had to understand that it was just a completely um, selfish reason, because what we use this program for. Yeah, but there was a few we went to CS3. It didn't feel that bad. Also, I grew up on it. It's just one of those things like have probably a certain percentage of nostalgia for too. This line's really close to the other one. And all my talking, I realized I didn't even rough that one out, which I probably should have. It's okay. Did I get the dots that I forgot? I did. Oh yeah, that's fine. That'll work. What do they teach in SVA? Bob and I both went for traditional animation, but they teach, it's an art school. It's a school of visual arts.
Oh, program-wise, I don't know though. If they
Oh, when I started there, well, it was, you had a light table and some paper with holes in it, and they were just teaching principles though. So, I don't know if they,
I think they're learning Toon Boom.
they're learning Toon Boom and stuff like that, but I'm curious, like, first year, do they just stick to principles and you don't worry about what program? When I went, and, like, this was, like, kind of the turn of, like, when Wacom was coming into production schedules, like, professionally.
Well, there was more. They were still using the pads on the.
It was the pads, but it was a digital sort of turn, and there was the hardcore people saying, no, let's not do this, and then there was teachers who were already in the industry saying, no, this is the future and all that stuff, and there was a lot of kind of confusion around if animation was going to go this digital. But I remember there was two kind of takes to it. There was the ones it's like, this is the future, and then the other teachers were like, don't use this as a crutch. So it was kind of an influx time, and I had to go to the animation board or whatever, the person in charge of animation there, and I had to ask permission if I could learn how to do compositing, like, because Adobe After Effects was just starting. And my year before, they didn't make a requirement, but the year after me, they did make it a requirement, so I was in the middle there, and I had to, like, take, like, a summer course at a community college. It was this weird time where they didn't want my class to learn it, and I remember I had to fight for that. So it was, yeah, when I went, there was really no rule to what program was going to be used. It was kind of up to the teacher. And our thesis, was your thesis done on paper, Bob? Or did you?
Drawn on paper and scanned it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we had to draw on paper, scan it in. We weren't like that old school where we're painting on cells. Though I did do that first year, just as, as an experiment. That was, God, I'm glad I don't have to do that. But yeah, scanning in. But that felt like a cheat too. When we'd be like, what do you mean you can kind of clean it up in Photoshop and all that stuff? Times have changed. Yeah, I'm curious. I'm gonna ask my friend.
on paper and scanned it in just like that too?
I think Cuphead was definitely done on paper. I don't know what the cleanup thing was, though.
I think it was probably scanned in.
I'm sure it's inked on paper and then scanned, but I don't know. They didn't transfer to Cell, I would
No, I don't
think. God, that would take forever. But I don't know. They perfected that game's look so well. If someone told me it was Cell, I wouldn't be shocked. Yeah, God. The new one too, the DLC, was just like the animation on that was gorgeous. Wonder what their next project's gonna be. Oh, I forgot the dots here. Those 2 dots. I might just erase them. They're bothering me so much. Alright, so one more drawing, and then the dirt, and then I'll show you the stagger I'm talking about. And then, like all these ones where if the impact doesn't feel big enough, I always add sort of what I call a debris layer, which this guy's easy. He's kind of just this giant dirt pile, so like we could grab some of the debris I did in other sprites here and probably lay it right on top and change the timing. But the whole thing with this, and kind of the principle of animation, is we start with these big broad strokes and then keep adding to the drawings until it feels right. So if this doesn't feel like a very impactful hit, which I don't think it won't, but if I want to add a little more, I'm just going to go in and keep adding stuff until it feels chaotic enough that it reads as she's really wailing on this dude.
Was it hard to get into SVA?
I remember feeling I applied for early access or what? It's not early access.
Decision, I think.
Early decision. And this is it's weird explaining this now, but this was like kind of pre-internet and stuff, so we had to have like it was all word of mouth. I was thinking like what should go in a portfolio. And I wanted to do illustration or cartooning or animation. So I was like, do I fill my portfolio with drawings that I think look like cartoons? But luckily I had kind of a mentor in high school that went to SVA as an illustrator, and really, really good illustrator. And he kind of coached Bob and myself. We had the same teacher then. What we needed for the portfolio, and it was like still lives and live drawings and all that stuff, which now they tell you the same thing. But I remember we got in, both of us, the early thing, but I remember feeling unsure if we were definitely going to come in.
No, I never.
Like I never was confident until we got the letter, so I don't know if it was hard. We just happened to both get in, but that was our. Did you have a backup school?
Not really.
Not
I was
really.
Kind of maybe not even do animation.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Yeah, I didn't have. I had like SCAD was one.
I was thinking that too, but then I think I was thinking.
I didn't even
going
try
more
for
into,
Cal
like,
Arts.
Engineering or architecture.
There was like this again was kind of the late '90s, and there was Cal Arts, which I think was at the time like the gold standard of animation. Well, one, it was in a place where this is sort of indicative of the time I'm talking about there, which was like the early 2000s, where animation in the United States was really only considered viable in parts of New York City and like around Hollywood and LA and all that stuff. And Hollywood sort of had the most animation there, it's fair to say that. So the school there, the class, and I saw like a bunch of their theses was just it didn't feel like these were a bunch of early 20-year-olds making cartoons. It felt like seasoned animators. So I didn't even apply to Cal Arts, even though I looked at it as a better school. And there are a few reasons I'm from New York. It was close to home. I'm kind of a shy guy. I didn't want to leave my friends from high school and all that stuff. And I knew an animator before me that went to SVA, and the mentor I was talking about earlier went to SVA.
3 people in like
So-
3 years. Right?
So it was 3 people in 3 years that all went to SVA in different years. Bob being the one that I went to school before Bob, and our friend Hansel went to school before myself. So it just felt like, yeah, let's just go for SVA. But I remember like the portfolio review, and I left the review and I was kind of unsure, like I couldn't read if they liked it or not, and I was like, well, this is.
I remember I had some 3D stuff, and they were kind of pushing me to do 3D at the portfolio review, but because I think it was new and they wanted to just probably start getting people into
Probably, yeah.
3D, their 3D program.
Oh, and we, like, my class was a class of like 19 or something. There was like traditional animation wasn't as big as illustration or photography or any of it. But yeah, I was super unsure. I didn't feel very confident. Like I wasn't. I liked illustration, but looking back at my stuff, God, it was so bad. But luckily, I don't know if it was the letter of recommendation and
Yeah.
Don Duga too, an old animator who worked at SVA. He was from around here too, and I took a few of his classes when I was like 15 for storyboarding. So I just tried to hedge all my bets. Got a letter of recommendation from him, my art teacher, early access, and I keep calling it early access, early admissions.
Yeah.
Got games on the mind. So I think all those things had a hand in them saying you're welcome here. So I think that's. I haven't thought about that in a while though. Like the pressures of getting into an art school. And my class was awesome too. Like I was in a really talented class. And like a lot of like the people I sat next to really went far in the industry. Like it was crazy. It just a complete happenstance. You just happen to pick a seat, and like I ended up sitting next to someone who got so high up in the industry, and it was just kind of walked in and sat next to him, and like that just complete happenstance. Draw so quick. I try to draw quick, especially for these streams. I worry that I'm boring everyone with just like I'm changing this one character 12 times here. I kind of get bored with that, so I'm worried the audience will too. That's why I like to spice things up and kind of do different characters and different, like, a run cycle's way different than what I'm doing here. So I try to kind of give it. And then there's, like, the cinematic stuff that's part of the game. Where, you know, we have the intro to the video game, like that's readily available on YouTube. And we approach animation way different from that, because that's just like we're making a short pretty much. We're like we don't have to worry about what a player will do with these characters. We're kind of choreographing the whole thing, so that approach is way different. But Sprites it's kind of analytical. You know, you have to worry about what the player's going to do or what they won't do, what you intend for the player to do, and then you have to think the opposite too. Like my instinct for this guy, like say we give him 3 hits until he dies, it would be you dig him up and then you instantly start attacking him until he's dead. Other players might want a different experience and dig them up, run over, dig another one up, and then go fight something to the side, you know? So we have to kind of keep that in mind. It's not what I will do or what we hope the players to do even. It's what will the player do. So we have to kind of keep all those avenues open. And that's when you get all these drawings. You can build up pretty quick. I'm coloring all this wrong stuff here. Hold on. I'm just coloring with my mouse here. A lot of earth tones on this dude. Okay, so I got this guy colored. Let me really just breeze through this cleanup real quick. And then I'll show you the stagger, and then I'll show you kind of the color correction I'm going to do for the first couple frames. And then I'll lay this guy in, and I'll try to make a little sort of like test animation I do with Becky and all of his sprites to see if it's working. All right. And this dirt is so kind of simple. Yeah, I mean, I think almost anyone could in between something like this without a rough. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. You're not bored? Well, thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Okay, get the little detail here. And I gave this guy 3 different damages because, there's a few reasons you could do that. Excuse me, my throat. Say we only give him 2 hits and then a death. The third one could still come into play, like we could have the third one as just kind of a backup one for like if you do run away and use a different swing to hurt him. So I don't think any of it will be at a loss, even if he's a 1-hit enemy, or 1 or 2-hit essentially. Otherwise, we would have just animated the death animation. But I think it'll give a more robust experience too. It'll feel a little less like there's just one character running around with the same sprites. It'll give a little more variety. Almost finished here. Alright, so I'm looking at the time right now, and it took me 1 hour to clean this guy up, which feels way too long. I start every day thinking I could do so much more. And I keep fooling myself every morning. I was like, alright, I'll get this guy done today, right? It's like... Yeah, Bob's working on an enemy himself. He's doing damages too. He's one of us has to finish today. Yeah, and I don't like leaving work like not having something finished because it's just one of those things that weighs on my mind all night. Which is also the worst thing you could do to your brain. Is just like I'm sitting there not near a computer. What am I like? Why am I worrying about this? My problems will still be there in the morning. Okay, so we got all those finished. Still overlaid here, so it looks really crazy.
Well, you could just sit and rewatch the 35th time episode, of Big City Greens. Or
You could do that. You could do that with your kids. Yeah, no, I could just watch Cooper play with YouTube all night, which gives me just as much anxiety. So, you see I put them all on 2s here. They're still right on top of each other. Then I'll grab the one from below and drag it over once. And it also depends on which one I want to happen first. So when you're thinking about where he's getting hit from, I want the frame that's the most in that direction. So that happens to be the bottom on this one. This one's a little bit further to the right. So I'll actually grab the top frames here, shift it over one like that, right? And then we're just going to drag and drop. and this is where the stagger comes in. And when I play it, you'll see that it kind of does this big juddery kind of thing before it settles to this last extreme. I'm just going to play this real quick. I erased the last frame because that's the same exact one on the other layer. You see, you get this kind of nice little... It's still a settle, but it feels like it's really kind of like jumpy. Now, you see the timing on top? I'm just going to drag those frames. So this will follow the exact same settle as when her hockey stick hits him. Field hockey stick here. Like that. Now, what I want the player to do would be to go right to the second hit from this part, or even sooner. You know, you could kind of swing your field hockey stick at any rate, almost. But, as I said earlier, what if she gets hit by another enemy and can't? So we have to have this guy kind of return to a state of where he is no longer vulnerable. And we have to do that for every damage there. So what I do with that is an ease out, which this will be the first keyframe, the one closest to that. And these are really broad frames, so this one we're definitely going to have to rough out here. When I'm finished with that, I'll show you the color correction thing I do, and then we'll add a layer of debris, and that should have this one singular hit of damage all finished. Okay, so when I see this, my main focus not on the eyes in this case, but kind of on the legs going up like that. So I want to add this cartoony bend. We got the legs starting here, right? And the legs sort of ending here. So the in-between, because he's going that way, we could drag these kind of big, like cartoonish feet that way. So the toes will kind of be closer to this frame right here rather than that one. And when you see it, even that little rough there, you can kind of get that bend, which is just that kind of that line of action that I would like to have happen in this one. All right, so I'm going to keep that in mind. I'm going to just use that as an under drawing here.
Someone said, do you have a favorite cartoon?
Favorite cartoon of all time. We were talking about it earlier. I was thinking about I have a soft spot in my heart for like the old Popeyes, the Fleischer stuff. I always was a fan of Fleischer cartoons. They were like this really big thing that was happening in New York, and I cut my teeth on the animation industry in New York, so I have this soft spot for it. And I think that it was just well crafted, like those old Popeyes. More modern stuff. Anything Genndy does, I you know, there's no secret here that I'm very influenced by him. I love that he kind of he sort of changes the narrative of like cartoons have to be something. Like he did Primal, which to me I look at as like almost like a silent film. Like there's not a ton of dialogue, and when you take away dialogue from the realm of animation, you have to rely just on your craft of animation or design or pacing or storytelling. And I think he's just mastered that, and he's like, he can take something that, and it's like he any genre he touches, or not genre, but any kind of style he touches, just is kind of this master class on design and what the capabilities of animation have. And he's just this brilliant guy, animator or cartoon creator. So anything he does, I'm a big fan of like Miyazaki. I like his work ethic. I think he's been great. He's another great storyteller that doesn't rely too heavily on tropes. I think he has the sort of the best storytelling in terms of like a character that doesn't need to be like all his movies. I feel like there's exceptions, of course, but like it doesn't rely on like a romance angle or like someone falling in love and stuff. It just seems like always like this beautiful coming of age kind of thing. I think he mastered that storytelling. and then he has the work ethic to just sit there and literally crank out 100,000 drawings himself and work day and night on it and stuff. So I like almost the cartoons that have those kind of stories behind it. I'm almost like I look at cartoons from like an animator first kind of thing, and like those are the guys or the animators that I want to sort of replicate and like one day hope to master half the stuff they master and all that stuff. But I look at cartoons very differently from like not just entertainment. I look at it from a craft too. So that with that in mind, Popeye, Gendy stuff, all the greats really. But it was funny when we mentioned Popeye earlier. Not Popeye, Batman. I was like, God, that was such a
Oh, that
good.
was one of my.
That's such a good cartoon. And it was definitely for kids and stuff, but it like didn't treat you like
No,
a
it
kid.
definitely wasn't.
You
Yeah,
know,
it was definitely a little bit older.
like it didn't treat you like it was a good detective. Like there, and it wasn't just like him playing with his like Batmobile. It was like there was like a mystery to all the cartoons. There's that one episode, I think everyone kind of knows it if you're familiar with Batman, but the one where he's like, you're not sure if he's sleeping or something. It was the one with Scarecrow or Sandman or something.
Yeah.
That one always stands out as one of the better cartoons.
I
Like just
the
like,
Clayface one always stuck out.
was that the one where he wasn't
No,
sure
the
that he was
Clay-
asleep?
Clayface was in the one where it was like a two-part one where it was like they kind of did it cool. That was like the whole villain was. It was like kind of how he became Clayface.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's hard. That would be hard to do in live action.
Yeah.
Are they trying Clayface anytime
I
soon?
think they were talking to him being in the new one, but it might be something different than like.
Like actual Clay?
Yeah, it might have something to do more with old 50s type style.
Is there like another property that had like it was so campy and so ridiculous and then turned that serious? Like, is there any other property that did that?
Well, were the original comics that campy? Or
I don't know. I don't know, honestly.
Like that might
Yeah.
have been more just the 50s might have made it extremely campy.
Like
What
the
it did.
Adam West one, or
Yeah.
is that was his name?
Yes.
Adam West. Yeah. Yeah. No, but you think of like from when I
Because I think
learned
originally
about
was-
Batman
it
to
was
what
a-
I see nowadays was like what a 180 turn.
I think the original comics were more about. They were called detective comics. I think it had a lot.
Yeah,
To do
well,
with the
yeah.
detective.
Also, that was an era when it was
Yeah.
like that hard-boiled detective. Yeah. But and honestly, I don't watch a ton of cartoons now, and it's weird being an animator and having two kids of a kind of cartoonish age. My kids are kind of YouTube kids, and I can't. I don't see the entertainment in it,
I really
but
watch. I like a lot of this.
you
It's better,
like Bluey and stuff. Like
Oh,
your
yeah,
kids
that,
like
but
Bluey.
Even like there's good YouTube. Like there's people that are doing good stuff on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Someone said Batman got pretty campy after the Comics Code. Yeah. Where the Comics Code, when it was like, was there a rating system or something? You had to do certain, like, you had to do certain things, or you couldn't show too much violence. I'm guessing. There must have been like a rating system eventually. All right. You know, I might put this in the second frame so we can kind of see the legs more. I'm gonna do that. Yeah, I feel like I heard about the Comics Code. I'm just not sure what it entails. Alright. Yeah, but like my first take on Batman was the '60s version or the late '50s, and I was just like, "What is that?" I was just so confused. I was like, "This is for adults?"
I was a kid. I was really pretty young when the first Michael Keaton movie came out, and I was
Yeah.
like, already had.
I was only
I
9,
was
yeah.
excited. Like I knew who Batman was, and I was excited to see it, but I didn't. I don't remember why. I would have known who he was other than the '50s one.
Shoptooth asked, by the way, have you watched a Mario movie? Yes, I definitely did. My my oldest son, what he turned to me during the middle of it and he said, "This is my new favorite movie." Like, so we watched that, and then we watched it in the theater. Then we got the what is it? Then to come out on something. We watched it on that too. And there's this thing during the summer in our town where they watch it outside, like the recreational center, and we're slated to watch it. Then he loves that movie, and I liked it too. I thought it was great. I mean, when my first
my
Mario
first
movie I
experience.
saw was way different. I mean, God, what a disaster that one was. It's the whole thing where a gut went through the front of Congress where psychological. Oh, yeah. Every few years, society blames the medium that kids like on why everything is messed up. Video games, the same thing with Mortal Kombat. And then they did it with the music, and they're running out of genres to blame.
It's like it's not the gun, like it doesn't.
No, it's not. It's the thing they're playing, of course. it's always that. They did that thing then when we went to high school with like Marilyn Manson and stuff. They were blaming him for a bunch of stuff. And it's like, what's going on here? Because I thought we went through that in like the late '70s with like hard rock. They were blaming like the devil was coming for you. And so it's like every few years we had to do this.
And I didn't like Dungeons and Dragons too, right?
Yeah, they blame. Well, yeah, but I learned that through Stranger Things, which I don't know if that's historic.
Well, I think. Well, Andrew, I might have. I thought Andrew.
Yeah, Andrew said something like that, which I get, but yeah, they in Stranger Things the last season they kind of did this thing with they acted like Dungeons and Dragons was like a demonic cult, and I was like, I don't remember that. I was too young in that part of the '80s, but I could see that totally tracking. All right, let's get that cleaned and then the color correction. Okay. Boy, I really didn't think this would take an hour to do this guy. I thought we'd get all three done.
Well, I'm finding the hits aren't going as fast.
Here. Maybe collectively, you and I will have 3 hits done today. All right, I'm going to start with the eyes here for this rough out. And with the hits for me, these are the hardest parts, getting to the recoil position. And I think this is going to be just seen by a very small percentage of the players that play in the way I described earlier. But no, that's unfair to say because you could get hit and this guy can sink back in. Yeah, I think I heard Kevin's that show, Comic Book Man. I watched that pretty religiously, and I remember them saying something. They always brought up like there was a part in comic book history where there was, I don't know if it's they called it like the Marvel something code too. Like one of them had this set of rules that they couldn't break, and it felt like it was violence based. Like you can't show this or that, and you can imply someone's dying, but you can't show it or something. It's something like that. And it was like during the Silver Age of comics. All right, gonna bend his foot a little less this time. The dirt pile. Gonna turn this dot to that one. Well, let's see if that tracks. These are also so quick, like I'll just forego some of the detail. All right, that works. Alright, so the eye kind of works as a blur in this case too. I'll extend it further than it has to be, just to kind of lead into the action. I make the eyes kind of this red color, because I think it pops a little bit, and it helps lead the action when all that stuff, when you have just kind of this hint of color. I think that's why eyes are so effective in animation too, because historically they're mostly just white or brighter anyway. So the eye's naturally drawn to them, especially in contrast if they have like if you have like big eyebrows and stuff and they're covered and it's a little darker. I think subconsciously you pick up on that. So you're always sort of looking at the eyes in all these ones. And this one, because the silhouette's so foot heavy, I'm kind of focusing on the eyes and the feet in this case. All right. Let's get that one there. I'm bending the arms because the arms all of a sudden pop into this one. And I was thinking maybe I would do like he's kind of doing like a dive, like a head dive, head first, putting his arms kind of by his side rather than this. But I decided since the other one, the other recoil starts with the hands going into it, that I'll kind of follow suit with that as well. That's why the arms are kind of popping down, like he's digging a hole into the dirt, rather than just diving in head first. All right. Now the feet. The toes. Gonna straighten out that. You see how this line is straight? That's because this final one over here is a straight line too. And when you're doing that arc, like you want to kind of straighten out any of these indiscrepancies there. So this will go like that, and the final one will go like that, and then kind of the eye will lead to that too. If you notice anyone like when you do action lines in cartoons, it always you want to follow the action essentially. So that's why any kind of lines like that you want to straighten out in those instances. It'll look a little more graceful. That okay, and one more, the third hardest drawing. Then we'll put it to the test. All right. So I got the eyes getting real big here. They're getting smaller here, so I'm going to follow that lead. Get them a little smaller, a little further apart. Start adding the furrow of his brow here, which is essentially dirt. Follow the grass line here. The dirt here. Ears. Now the hands can disappear here. His face is going to be in the dirt at this point. Don't need to worry about those arms anymore. Turn that to that. Make sure this kind of shirt he's wearing follows the same kind of triangles there. Now we want the feet to start curving up like that. Follow that line. So you can see here the foot almost gets taller than that part, but we're following through. And nothing in nature would follow that line. You know, like that's what would happen if you were kind of a robot and just in between that to that, you would say the middle's right there. but we're thinking about the length of the leg here and the follow through. So the arc's very important there. And the pants would even go higher than that. And you can see that even when I left the action lines in, you can kind of feel it now. That feel, you see the arc of that, and that feels just about right to me. Let's clean up that very very messy drawing there. Good God. All right, get the furrow under there. Okay, it feels good to finish one sprite a day, doesn't it? One down, about 4,000 left, and you know, we could take that break we were talking about 3 years ago. That's the ear right there. Oh my God, I didn't save all. I just saved. And that's another thing with MX. You couldn't even tell I saved, could you? There's no stalling. Go try something with a certain amount of drawings in any other program and see if you don't see a hourglass pop up. That autosave feature, that has messed up so many of my drawings and the other ones, right?
I mean, it was nice to have, but it did.
It was. No, the only part, well, it conditioned me not to save though in some projects, and then I turned the autosave off and I lost work.
Yeah.
Because I was relying so heavily on the idea that every 10 minutes it saved or something. And then there was also times when I wanted to go back
And,
like further than 10 minutes because there was something I messed up or wanted to correct and I couldn't. But I think overall it was a really good feature. We had we lost a bunch of work at another studio I worked at, like a bunch. There was a server kind of malfunctioned, but after that we had like an egg timer in there that would just go off every once in a while to tell everyone to save and save from your desktop, and it was very helpful. All right, let's color that. Boy, some of these in-betweens are just so bad looking. But, you know, you have to realize you're going to be playing as Becky, and this is the percentage you're going to see it at. And, you know, hopefully you don't pause at this at this rate. We have a selfie system in the game where she's armed with a phone, and you could take selfies with some of the NPCs. So it's animated, and there's parts where it's in between that because that's you can pick any frame you want to save, and I'm always a little worried about the player catching one of my bad in betweens on those. I tried to make those as clean as I could, but there's parts where her eyes. But I was like, you know, when people take selfies and their eyes half closed, I'm gonna rationalize it that way. I'll show you what I mean when I'm talking about, because I got a file for that too. And it's like, yeah, I've taken photos with my eyes half open, half closed. So that's me rationalizing, not putting in more time on that. Is that the ear? That's this one right here. That's the ear. But yeah, we got I think it's a really cool feature, and we put it in a while ago. I keep kind of forgetting about it, but there's this you know, where you can grab your phone and do that, and I'll show you an example of that soon. I think we showed it on Twitter a few times, but Paint normal. What is... Oh, that's the grass. Okay. Let's color the skin. Alright, get this finished. Always miss some stuff when you're doing it, trying to do it this fast too. We could cover that up with debris too. Okay, so we got that. There is going to be, like when you get hit, there's going to be, we call it the debris layer. Sometimes it's blood, sometimes it's spit. In this case, I'm going to make it dirt, but they will kind of encompass the silhouette of this character. So whether it's, he's kind of getting hit this way, right? So I'll do something that shoots off debris in that direction, kind of tailors off that way. Or, you know, if we want to use this as more of a universal kind of hit and not so directional, I'll have the dirt pop straight up and kind of settle. So that might even be a better case where, you know, we'll go like that and have that dissipate. But I'm going to put that as a guide for a rough, so we won't see that. Okay, so that hit is finished. Now let me get the colors I'm going to use for this guy. And it varies by enemy, but there is, it's always on the same exact frames, which is frames 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going to open up another character we finished. Teenage vampire. I just want to be careful not to open up the wrong file. Okay, I showed you guys this one on earlier streams, but this is sort of like a finished example of a sprite sheet. Okay, there's the hits. And this guy has all the angles and all the different hits and all the deaths. Show you that. Okay, so I'm going to grab the first 3 frames here. You know, I could actually use this blood thing as dirt too. There's no reason why I can't. I'm going to grab these frames of him. So I'm going to Control-Alt-C, that copies frames. Close that. Paste it in this. I'm going to drag him over to the left so I can see. And just use this as my kind of color reference for this guy. So you can see here that the outline of it's no longer black. It's going to be this kind of red here. But the first thing I do, because I'm never sure if this is the red that I use for the eyes, I'm going to color the inside first. And that gets important because if it were the same red, Flash doesn't recognize that it'll be a line anymore, and then I'll lose that line, which I'm going to change the color of, and then you would lose the silhouette of the eye. So I'm going to first color everything here. Okay, then grab the outline. Be careful here and kind of just hit up any of the outline or details here. So we got that. I think the next is the opposite. Yeah, so I kind of just opposed on this one. And these vary by enemy, but I figured this is sort of a similar enemy in terms of it's a vampire, not just any other enemy, so I'm going to just use this as the color palette. I'm going to do the same exact thing. So this will flash, make it feel a little more impactful. And then to bring it really home, we'll add that debris. I'm still here. We see ya. Thanks for sticking along the whole time. Now this one I'm going to do the outline first because it's white and the other one's pure black, so we don't want to lose the line work in the eyes again. So this will further sell the point of the impact. Can erase that now. You can see it flashes, and you don't even really see the drawing at that point, but it does feel like you're hitting him actually now. And, okay. We're going to forego the debris just to show you how I'm going to test this now. So I'm going to grab a few things here. We got Becky. I'm going to just grab the frames here. I'm just going to grab these frames here for a second. File, new. I'm going to paste this. This will just be a tester. Grab those. This is a different aspect ratio, so she's going to look pretty big here, but we're going to shrink it down. We shrink it down to 25%, and this is essentially what, at any given time, what it's going to look like on your television screen. Center that. I'll extend this a little bit. So now we're going to do some, does it get too high there? Let me move them down a little bit so you see the whole action. Okay, so I'm going to grab some Becky frames here, some sprite work, and I'm going to just replace them, and that'll essentially indicate what the animation of the character will look like if you're playing the game. And it's not an exact science, but we can see what it looks like. Okay, she's like that. So we're gonna, he's right here. I'm gonna swap out his symbol. Call this DV animation test, dirt vamp animation test. I'm gonna grab the idle or the prone right here. We'll replace that. So I'm gonna swap here. Vulnerable idle. I'm gonna make sure that's on frame 1 though. So get him out. That's not fully animated. It looks choppy because it is. Okay. Now I'm going to swap out Becky's symbol here. And we can do that at any rate now that it's not loopable. So I'll pick frame 72. Nice round number for 3 seconds exactly. I'm going to bring in one of her attacks, which I'm going to have to open up her file here. Master file, and like that. This was the file I was talking about earlier, where this is the core movement of Becky without any special tools or any of that stuff. I'm going to just grab one of these attacks here. This one right here. This is usually our first attack. Like if you're idle and then you just hit the action button. Paste that. Swap this symbol out. Attack, right? Okay, so we're gonna do frame 1 for that. Now Becky will be in the front here, so I'm gonna just change the layer. Then this will happen, of course, in the game. We don't have to worry about that. Move her back a little bit. Okay, so she got that. Now at this one, we're gonna swap to the damage one we just did. Just make sure I got the right file here. swap that symbol now to damage 01. So, you see, and if we did it right, it should follow the same exact framework, which it looks like it does there. And then they both kind of recoil at the same time, too. Now, like I said, I want people to just kind of button mash this and get this guy killed. But this, say they run off here, this is what one kind of fragment would look like. And then it would return to idle, and then he can move around and do what he does. So, a lot of drawings to just, we're talking, you know, about 300 drawings just to get this kind of, what seems like a simple action here. But you got that. And it works. And of course we can add, like, in the game where if you hit them, like, we can move them across so it feels a little more impactful and stuff. That's all sort of up to the programmers, though, what feels right. And the layering and all that stuff. And that. So we hit him 3 times, and then we got this death animation that I'm still kind of working on the debris and the aspects of that. But I want these kind of big movements, you know, like I want when you're bashing on this guy, it should feel like kind of poppy in a way. So with all these deaths, I do something really drastic from the idol, which would be this guy right here. This is the idol. You see, so he's kind of on the floor. His chin's on the floor. His torso's kind of bent in half. Now I'm going to do, for the death, kind of the opposite move. So he's on the ground, so I'm going to fly up and kind of sink down. And then I'll make it feel like really poppy and more impactful. And this would be, we'd add a lot of debris and the same exact color changes and all that stuff here too. And that we kind of got this thing. And then, like any sprite that is kind of a death in this finite thing, we had to have everything disappear at the end, so all this kind of debris sinks into the ground. So, we got that. All right, so that, I'm trying to think what we can do in 15 minutes here. And there's not a lot. I could start another.
Or like a question on that.
Yeah, so we have 15 minutes left, guys. I'm going to just kind of continue on. I wouldn't expect to have anything finished here. So if you have any questions or anything about animation or just the industry in general, you can reach out and we'll try to answer that. Maybe it's a good time to promote our stuff, Mom? What do you think? All right, yeah. What's that?
I'll put the wish.
We're going to put the wish list on there. If any of you guys interested in this game and want to see it in its completion, go ahead and wish list this stuff because it gives our team this huge morale boost. And we're all very excited for this game, and we're putting our heart and soul into this. And I think you guys are going to get a good reaction when it finally hits all your guys' game systems and all that. Already added. Thank you, Tyler. So this is great. I love that you guys are already doing this and tuning in every week. It really helps, thinking we're doing the right thing here. You can follow us on our socials. We got Instagram and Added+1. Look at this. This is awesome. Thanks so much, guys. No, honestly, if you like supporting us in any way, that is, and even if it's something you just like the artistry of it and you want to share stuff on Twitter, all those retweets and all those likes, and same with Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and all that, it's a good gauge of we're doing the right thing here. So those are the promotional things. The wish list is the important one. Oh, I can show you guys something that we worked on Twitter yesterday, actually. It was kind of a new enemy. Let me figure out where I put that, though. Again, if I open up the wrong file here, I might give some stuff away with the game that I want you guys to be a little surprised with, so.
There's also the selfie thing you wanted to.
The selfie thing. That's perfect. There's nothing in there that no one hasn't seen. All right, let's go to selfies, animation, Becky, selfie poses. Okay. I was talking about earlier that you can, I'm hoping you don't catch us on the wrong keyframe. This is one where you actually absolutely can call me out on. You can pause it and it's part of the game forever. Uh, I'm gonna play this. I'm not sure if the background. I'm gonna turn off the background for now. But essentially, Bob this Bob's been doing all the backgrounds, and there's so many backgrounds in this game and so much awesome art like this. But essentially, everywhere you pull out your phone, there is a backdrop where you can take a selfie with, and some of it's integral to the game, others just for fun. So there's all these beautiful backdrops in this, but I'm gonna just turn this off just for the flash sake, so we can play this right. There's certain NPCs. This is Becky's father, where you'll be prompted to take a selfie with, and we wanted to have some fun with it, so we did different poses for it, where the left or right button can switch on the selfies here. So I'm just gonna play this. The NPC sort of does the same thing. I'm trying to hit almost every emotion. This is sleepy. I've never seen anyone use that one yet. So you could be the first. Hurt, vampire, and then Instagram filter. But you catch this, like, you could catch some of these frames where she's blinking, so there are like these like imperfections in them, and I've seen all of our team catch it, like this eye right here. Like, there's just some areas where we really can't avoid what you guys do in the game, so you're gonna catch some of these. Hopefully you hit it on the key poses though. It's that ease in, ease out I do on all these sprite works. It's the 13 frames up, 13 frames down, so it kind of builds this rhythm. Camera mode, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, there's NPCs for a lot of selfies, and we also have the talkie system where you see kind of a close-up version of the characters and stuff. That you can't pause though, so this is really the only one where you can really see where I messed up. Hopefully, though there's other places too, I'm guessing. So that's that, and I'm gonna show what we worked on yesterday. This is on Twitter, so this might be it. Yes. I'm gonna play this, and this is kind of like the Dirt Vampire, a more simplified kind of villain we've got working here, where definitely on the cartoonish side. So I'm gonna play this. You can see where this goes. Start it over. We got a festival going on downstairs in the street, so you might hear some music soon.
Would be a good time to duck out anyway.
It might be before we get called out for it. So, you can see I'm kind of telling the animation story on the bottom here, what he's capable of, and I called him the Daywalker. He's going to be Greg's way better at names. He's going to come up with something way more clever than this. But the idea is this is an enemy that can not. He can be out at night, but he can also walk the streets during the day and stuff. And we have his attack cycle, his death and stuff, and all that. So we do have these kind of quirky kind of characters too. It's not just all blood and violence. We're trying to be a little cartoony too. We'll get a switchboard. Once we know everything about like when this game's going to be released, we're going to let everyone know. There's nothing public yet, so we can't say either yes or no. But trust me, once the release date's finalized, we're going to tell everyone on Twitter, TikTok, and all that stuff. And once we know everything about the pedigree of all this stuff, we're definitely going to let everyone know. But right now, the best thing you can do is that wish list. That's a surefire. So you can see here, and it's all that's what's nice about the sprite animation too. Like, you could really tell a story with this stuff. And this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 7 sprites. In terms of our game, not a lot. and I did this guy pretty fast because most of the time he's just a hat. So we're gonna duck out a little early here, guys, though, because there's gonna be a bunch of music playing from the street, and it's gonna get pretty rowdy out there pretty quick. But I hope you guys have a wonderful 4th of July. We'll be back next Friday. We're gonna have some more enemies, I'm thinking, too. So we'll have a lot of fun with that. I appreciate all you guys. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for the repeat customers. Thanks for the people who waited 3 years for the stream. We really appreciate all this, and we're doing this for not only for us but for you guys. We really love that we have this little audience that enjoys all this stuff. So I hope you guys have a great weekend, a safe weekend. No fireworks in the hands. And we'll see you guys next week. Take care.